So cool. So we had Peaches, a little Pomeranian,
Yeah.
um, and I just saw that you were just looking for basic obedience, some off leash, and then a little bit of uh, looking to address some leash reactivity. Correct?
Yes.
Cool. So go
Yeah.
ahead and oh, go for it.
Yeah. Like when she's on her leash, she's very reactive to people and dogs and animals. So that's like the main focus, I think.
People, dog, and animals. She's reactive to all those things.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So go ahead and fill me in on Peaches and what other things you're looking for, and you can start off with how'd you? I saw because I see you're a referral or someone referred you to us. So
Mhm.
I was wondering how you heard about us or who told you about us.
Yeah. Well, my sister London and her dog Elsie just started training. So she's the one that told me about Citizen Canine. And I think Elsie's in week 2 or week 3 now, and she has her collar. They've been doing training. She's out of town for a few days, so she showed me how to train her on our walks. And so I've been helping out with that. And um, I just, I know she was referred by her friends and they had amazing experiences. And so I just felt like now is the time because with Peaches, I rescued her in June of 2020. I found her on a rescue site and she was in Kentucky. So I drove down, picked her up. We connected right away. She sat on my lap the entire 5 hours back home to Chicago, and we just bonded. And since then, we've just been like the best of friends. So it's interesting because when we first got her, um, that's when my sister and I moved in together, and she had Elsie for that time for about a year and a half. And Elsie is the Great Pyrenees, so she's like over 100 pounds. Peaches is about 8.5 pounds. But they got along really, really well from the get go. So that we were incredibly grateful for. And then when I got her, she hadn't yet been spayed. So it was interesting because on walks, she was incredibly friendly with other dogs and people. She would let people pet her. And after she got spayed, there was just a complete change. And she started barking in a way that like she doesn't even breathe when she barks. Like it's so quick and it's so loud. And so a lot of people are like frightened by it. And she's not like aggressive, but she just might be protective. I don't know what it is exactly.
Mhm.
Um, because sometimes when other people walk her, like if London's walking her or one of our friends, she's really good and she won't bark.
Mhm.
But every time it's her and I, it's pretty bad when she's around like other dogs. So we've been doing light training with treats. So very, focused on food. She is very motivated with treats. And so we found that to be pretty effective. And I also recently started her in daycare. She did a trial day where she was there for about 6 hours. And when I picked her up, they said that she was amazing, that she didn't bark once, and that she got along with the other dogs and the people. And she came when they called her name, and that she was just an angel. So she's been going there for a couple weeks now. She's been, I think, about 7 days in total. She's been so far. So it's still new. Um, but I'm just amazed hearing that, she doesn't bark at all when
Yeah.
we're at home. If I mean, of course, if Elsie starts barking, then she'll start barking and vice versa. But if she hears the gate in the front of our apartment squeak as it opens, she'll start barking. If she hears someone walking in the apartment above us, she'll start barking. And it's just like a loud, incessant bark. So what our intention is, what we're looking to gain from this training is, when we're walking on the leash, I want her to stay focused and know that I don't know if like this is how the training goes, but like not necessarily that she needs my permission before she goes up to a different dog or a different human, but know that like she needs to sit first and like let me be the guide in those interactions. And then I also want to work with having her off leash, because when she's off leash, she's like, she loves to run. That's her favorite thing to do. And our parents have a fenced in backyard that's like a small enough fence that she can't squeeze through it. So I let her run at their house and she loves it. You know, she doesn't bark as much and she just does her thing. So I would love to just take her to the park, take her off her leash, trust that she'll come back when I call her name, and just like let her, you know, enjoy. So definitely leash training and off leash.
Okay, cool.
Big focuses. Yeah.
I got you. All right. Anything else about Peaches or anything else?
I don't know what she experienced before our life started together. She was the story that I learned is that she was bred with a breeder, and they like put her up and someone bought her, and their intention was to breed her as well, so they didn't get her fixed. But the breeder initially who had her, when they were doing the 3-month checkup, she noticed that Peaches was not in good health and it was pretty severe. And so she decided to take her back from the owner that she had sold her to. And from there, because she hadn't yet been fixed, they said she accidentally got knocked up and had a litter or two of puppies. So she has had puppies in the past. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know exactly what she experienced, but I know that it probably wasn't the most warm and welcoming household. And so, you know, since she's been with us, it's been nothing but love, but just like, I'm curious too, with training, if that's something to be mindful of, to make sure that, you know, it strengthens our bond.
Yeah. Okay. And then one quick question about the barking and everything for the in the home. What does she do like when, let's say, someone knocks on the door and then like someone, like she's barking, but then that person walks in? Like, what does she do when the person walks in?
Good question. Yes. Because that does happen quite often. Some of our friends come over and she's met them before, and sometimes they even bring their dogs. So when someone comes in, when she hears them before they enter the apartment, she barks and will not stop barking. It's very loud, it's very fast. I don't even think she's breathing. It's just like like constant. Once they come in, she continues to bark, but she like jumps on them and she's friendly and she's like licking their hands. And then depending on, I think, her comfort level with them, she'll stop barking after like 30, 45 seconds. And then with a lot of our friends that like she knows, she's like glued to them. So then she'll like go and sit on their lap and like try and jump into their arms and kiss them. And it's just that initial like welcoming them into the home it's very just aggressive and loud. And then even with other dogs, because that's something too that we've recently been playing around with. One of our friends, Mike, his dog Rigatoni, I think he's also in training with you. Yeah. So he comes here often, and he will bring Riggs with him sometimes. And it's interesting because with Peaches, it's just inconsistent. She'll start barking and then she'll play and she'll be friendly and she'll like sniff around and then she'll bark at him again and then she'll be friendly. So it's just a bit inconsistent. But I did recently introduce her to another dog of someone that is in my life, and this was at their apartment. So I walked up to the apartment with her. We walked inside of the apartment and his dog was there. She didn't bark at all. They started playing. She didn't bark at all. She was like super chill. And I don't know if that has to do with being in a new environment other than her home, or like, feeling protective when she's in her home. But that was really amazing to see that she was in someone else's home and their dog was there and they were playing and she didn't bark.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm sensing a lot of like a little bit, nothing like severe, but a little bit like territorial like behavior in Peaches, but nothing to the point of like turning into aggression when like someone enters the home, or if like someone approaches you on the sidewalk or anything like that. But a little bit of territorial and a little bit of like neediness, and like, because the issue is with, or not the issue, but like the thing is with the, when owners come here and like they drop off their dog and their dogs is doing the same thing, barking at us, growling, snarling, we're like, okay, uh come inside, you can bring your dog in the kennel, and then you can head out. And then they do that, and then the dog's just like, okay, I'm done, because now they have nothing to protect anymore. So that's what usually
Yeah.
why the dogs are like better or good, or like, they're not barking or acting like a certain way when the owner is here. So when the owner leaves, they have lost their territory. They lost whatever they're protecting. Same thing on walks. You're a walking like territory for her. So she's guarding you. She's protecting you. She's like, this person's mine. What are you doing over there? What are you up to? This person's mine. She's just letting everyone know.
Right.
That's the same thing. Like you're just traveling territory for. You're her pack. You're a pack traveling. And then when you go into someone else's home, she's like, whoa, this is not my territory. Like, this is a whole new area. I need to, be respectful. Like, this is not my place. Also, it could be because we've had a one dog here that was so territorial of thresholds that when a dog went into the playpen, she would start getting aggressive. So sometimes dogs are also are able to understand that the daycare area with all these dogs is a community space. So it's shared. So they understand like, okay, this is not mine. This is everyone's area. So that could be another thing as well. But yeah, I like just a little bit of territorialness, and just a very, sounds like she's really excited, and um, that's what I'm getting from Peaches. And I think, what was it? Because I did Elsie's, not Elsie's. Wait, is that her name?
Yep. Yeah. That's her name. That's her
Um,
sister.
I
Elsie.
did Elsie's consultation, but I did not train with her. I remember she reached out because Elsie was reactive as well. I can't remember.
Elsie, yeah, so she feeds off of Peaches. We try and walk them separately now, especially if there's only one of us. But yeah, so if Peaches starts barking, then she starts barking. But the issue there is like she's like the same size as us. So when she goes crazy, it's like having to hold Peaches and then wrangle this dog that's the same size as you.
Yeah, I remember her
Other
saying that.
people being like, oh my goodness. But she also doesn't have any recall. So Elsie like just needs to learn to like come when her name is called. So
Mhm.
that was like another big thing with London.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so that's what I'm getting from Peaches. So your goals, just to clarify, are just, get that walk down, kind of address that reactivity, the barking, and then having that off leash recall. You want her to have, you want her to have fun and everything, but when it's time to go home, or if it's time
Yeah.
to, maybe make a boundary of like, you don't go past this area, you'd like that. So like recall, and then we'll play by ear, see what that does for like the in-home stuff for the barking. Because sometimes dogs will, because sometimes owners will say like, hey, I have this problem and all these other problems, and then once we start training, these issues start to like go away or like decline. So we don't have to address it head on. But then if it's like, hey, this is still happening, then we're like, okay, well, we'll give you tools, maybe some exercises to address these behaviors. Um, So just to clarify, those are your goals, correct? That's just what you're kind
Yeah.
of looking for. Okay.
And then something else too that's top of mind for me is just also just like learning about her behavior.
Mhm.
Like if you like, I just want to know like what behavior to look out for to tell that she's uncomfortable
Oh, yeah.
or she is comfortable, things like that. So that, you know, I can be more proactive and visually see something and then decide in the moment, like this is not a dog that we want to say hi to, you know?
Yes. Correct. Yes. So yeah, there will be a lot of, if we do any lesson, any program, there will still be some sort of in-person, right? Whether it's board train, daycare and train, or in person, obviously in person. But we do point out and we help you figure, handle uh, a reactive, how to handle a reactive dog with calm dogs, with bikes, with other reactive dogs, what to do when the other dog is reactive, and like what signals and what's like you said, behaviors to look out for not only Peaches, but we also have to look out for the other dogs. We don't want to set Peaches up for um, how do I say, just like being ready for anything, for any dog and everything. We'll give you all that knowledge, and it's very easy to see once you start to realize how everything builds up, right? Because usually when owners have a reactive dog, they're thinking, once I see the bark and lunge, we have to fix that, right? Technically, you want to catch it before it turns into that. So there are behaviors and signals that Peaches will give off that will let you know that, uh-oh, she's getting ready. Then we can tackle those things, and then we can, it's not, it's very difficult to address once the dog is lunging, barking. That's like at 10, right? So if Peach is at a 0 when you come out the house, maybe she sees a dog and maybe she doesn't bark at this dog, but it can cause some tension. So maybe she does a little behavior, like maybe she's like stalking, but whatever. But that actually builds up. So then she's at a 2. Another dog, maybe she doesn't bark, she doesn't care, then she's at a 3. And if we're not addressing these little things, then 4, 5, 6, 7, then the littlest thing is just like, bah, 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 right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we'll definitely go over that, body language dogs. And then, cool. Do you ever see yourself taking Peaches maybe to like a patio, or if you wanted to take her out to a patio, you need her to like lay down for like an hour or two, or do you go hikes with her, or is it just like the simple, like you walk her around and then you let her run in a little off-leash areas, and then you call her and take her home? Or
Yeah, so here in Chicago, we just do walks. She's always on a leash. The only time she's not on a leash is when she's in her playpen. We have this like octagon shaped playpen that I'll put in the backyard, and she can like play in that, and I don't have to worry about her running away. Um, because the fence that we have, it's wide enough that she could just slip right through it.
okay.
So yeah, I don't want that to happen. And when we're in Michigan at our parents' house, that's when she runs, but it's not super often. So sometimes I do run with her on the leash because I can just like tell that she really needs it. She has a lot of energy. She's so much energy.
Okay.
um, and other than that, though, when we're in the city, which is most of the time, she's always on a leash, unless we're inside the house. And that too, her and Elsie will just like run back and forth, get the zoomies. And I don't usually take her out, but it would be nice to, if I'm going out for lunch outside on a patio, to have her sit down, relax, not, become aggressive when other dogs pass by or when the waiter comes with food, things like that.
Mhm.
Um, and then something else too that just came to my mind is traveling,
Mhm.
because London and Elsie will be moving overseas to the UK in a few months, and I'll definitely be planning to visit them, and I'm planning to bring Peaches with me. So I'm curious too if that's something that might be able to be like touched on, like in the airplane, like in the airport. And I think too, like a lot of this training would translate to that when we're in those moments. But if there's anything specific with traveling too, I would be curious to see what that what that would be for training wise.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is she kennel trained? Crate trained?
No.
Okay. So, and I think I had one client, what kind of dog was it? It was like those, it was a terrier. It's like a little, those white ones, those little white ones with the very pointy ears.
Yeah.
She
Boston
wanted-
too? No.
No, I'm not sure. It was like, it's like that dog that's always on the like the wet food for PetSmart with the like that
Right.
white dog. I don't know. I forget the breed, but it was a little white dog, pointy ears and like had long hair. And this dog was always breaking out of their little carriage thing for the airports and planes and would rip it up and then escape, and it was causing a lot of problems for like the airport people and everything like that. So we did cover that a little bit, you know, how to address certain behaviors and like practicing and building up to the point where once you do take her to the airport and she's on a plane, that she's already acclimated to that crate and she already knows like the rules and boundaries of not messing around with the crate and just always remaining calm. So that can be touched upon as well for you.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm just asking these questions just to kind of figure out what program would be best for you and would work for your life with Peaches. Because if you know if like you said, I don't really go that much like hiking or like Michigan's only once in a while, so I wouldn't really need all like the fancy off leash commands because that wouldn't be really um, that useful in your life and all these other things. So I was just wondering, just seeing where what you're needing, what you're wanting.
Yeah. I mean, in the future, that's probably going to be the case. Planning to move to California
Mm.
either later this year or early next year, but looking to be in San Diego. And there's like, we're definitely going to be like on the beach,
Oh, yeah.
more hiking, camping, things like that. So in the future for sure, but if that's something that we could touch on too during this training, I would be so open to that.
Yeah, and then we can also like you can choose your program and maybe it's not the maximum like so we'll get into it, but you can, by the way, you can always add classes or you can we can expand the training as well, but technically, and I'll get into it more once we do start like the training, it's already building to off leash, which I'll dive into more.
Right.
Cool.
Okay.
So it sounds like you already have some um like hands-on with the e-collar, like you were using it on Elsie and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. um any questions about the e-collar, like how it works, or I would did she explain it to you and everything and how it worked?
Yeah, London explained it. It's sort of like a TENS unit,
Mhm.
which I actually have experience with. When I was in high school, I was on the cross country team and I hurt my hip, and so that's the type of PT that they were doing.
Mhm.
But I'm curious because my question with Peaches is because she's so small,
Mhm.
and from the research that I did before picking her up, is that you shouldn't walk like small Pomeranians from a collar around their neck because they could get a collapsed trachea. So I do walk her on a harness,
Mhm.
and I feel like that contributes to her pulling because she's always like pulling in all the different directions. And um, I'm curious what that looks like if we will be like switching over to the collar, like if that's okay, not walking from the e-collar, but like a different collar,
Mhm.
or if it's okay to stay with the harness, what your experience is there. And then just like what the collar is like for a dog her size.
Yeah. So I think we picked up a new model. It's called the IQ Mini, which is tinier. I think it's like tiny. Um, so we do have one for like the very, very tiny dogs, like Peaches. And for for the harness, you're correct. Harnesses do promote pulling and cause frustration on the walks. How often do you walk Peaches? Like how much exercise do you work with Peaches?
Quite a bit.
Mhm.
Usually like 5 walks a day.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, 5 to 6 walks a day. And it's like a mix. It varies from like we'll go like 2 blocks, and then sometimes we'll go like a mile, sometimes we'll go even longer than that. So yeah, it always varies.
Okay. And then how is she when she comes home from these walks? Is she tired or is she still like zooming or what is she?
Sometimes she's tired. Like she's tired today because she went to daycare. So I'm
Uh,
surprised she's not like barking right now.
mhm.
But usually on the days where she stays home with my sister, since she mostly works from home, she will come back and still have a lot of energy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to see if she had, I mean, she might be a little bit overstimulated as well, which is very
Mhm.
common in a lot of dogs, where they're just, they don't have an off switch. So they're constantly, like, owners will say, yeah, I walk my dogs, so and so miles, and like they come home and they're still like running around, like it doesn't make any sense. That's called overstimulation. It's just because they don't have a job. So their brain is always going, going, going. So like at other daycares, um, they'll have dogs play all day, but
Mhm.
certain dogs need to be forced to be like rested, or else they'll keep going. So as they play all day, the brain is going, going, going. When they get home, they're still going. They don't know how to turn off. So owners will be like, "Hey, my dog was at daycare. Like, what did my dog do? Like, did my dog play at all today?" And like, yeah, but there's no off switch for those certain daycares. So maybe a little bit of overstimulation there, and the harness definitely won't help. Just again,
Mhm.
like it promotes pulling. Um, I don't know, maybe else London explain this to you, but dogs have what it's called opposition reflex. So for harnesses are used for huskies. Horses have harnesses to pull carriages, and harnesses are also used for protection training. So a handler will have the dog on the harness, and then across from the dog and the handler is the aggressor, like the person in the bite suit about to get bit. The
Right.
handler will pull and release, pull and release, pull and release until, because as you pull back, the dog wants to go forward. They get to go for it, but then you pull them back. So it's creating a lot of frustration. And until the handler has created enough aggression from the dog, they let go, and then the dog does the bite. So sometimes owners will be training their puppy to be a protection dog without knowing it, if they're working with harnesses and just kind of always pulling them away. So that's how
Yeah.
reactivity starts. It can start from puppies where they're just like, man, because this is negative tension, this negative pressure right here, man. Like every time I see a person, I get this tension, and then it becomes frustration. So they become vocal. So now they're like, every time I see a person, it's gonna happen. So I'm frustrated. So it keeps
Mhm.
happening, happening, happening. Then, it gets to the point of like, barking at everything. And then if it continues, sometimes it can turn to real aggression where they're just so annoyed with these people that they want to just act out, in a hurtful way. But I think that's rare, but that is what harnesses do. And like those advertisements say like a no pull harness is technically just an oxymoron because they're meant for pulling.
Right.
Um, but for Peaches, the because we have worked with dogs who had already had a collapsed trachea where we could not put anything on the neck except the e-collar because the e-collar wasn't pulling anything, but we couldn't do collars because the trachea was already collapsed. So we did do harnesses, and it was very difficult. But for Peaches, the collar wouldn't be the collar would be there to guide her. We're not actively using the collar, right?
Mhm.
Because we're training her to be, how do I say it? To understand and rely on the e-collar only. If we're using that leash constantly, then we're not really training her the right way, if that makes sense. It'll make a lot more sense
Yeah.
once we see it. Because even like then, even a collar can cause opposition reflex. So sometimes when owners are training and like, hey, like my dog, like after a class, like, hey, like, here and there, my dog will still pull me and all these other things. And we see what's going on. And we notice that their arm is doing like this. They're pulling this, they're pulling still. So as soon as they pull, you can see the dog go forward. So we'll tell the owner, like, because they have the leash in right hand, leash in left hand, drop this leash and hold it right here. And then the
Yeah.
dog, perfect. Then they're like, oh, it's me. I'm pulling on my dog still. And it's a habit for everyone. They're always like, always like this, or if they're always like pulling like this the whole time. So it's just a habit for them. And, you know, it's just, you know, kind of just, you know, checking yourself and making sure that you're not causing any confusion with the dogs.
Right.
But I think, let me see if we have one right here. We can either try, this is the IQ Mini. It's super
Oh,
tiny. Yeah,
yeah.
it's super
Yeah,
tiny.
it fits in your hand. That's so small.
Yeah, it's just so we can try this if you like. We also have the 280C, which is also a smaller one. Um, it's just that this remote is so the 280C has a knob, and like when you turn it, like, oh, it's like LC's, right? You see the screen and everything, like the number.
Yeah.
But this one has a like dial, like I don't know how to say it. If you look it up, the Dogtra IQ Mini, you'll see
Yep.
that the dial is like a little like circle thing.
Okay.
Do you see
Is
that?
it kind of like on CD players, like back in the olden days, how you would like do like the volume up and down?
Yeah, so like the volume, it
Okay.
has the numbers on the rotating thing. Yeah.
Got
So
it.
if I think it's just like personal preference, if you're fine with that, or you know, it's not a big deal. You know, you still have the same functions as Nick,
Mhm.
and like, you know, like the button you were using for LC, it's still the same
Right.
thing. But it's for
What's
dogs.
the difference without that dial? Like, what's the main difference between the two colors?
I don't I haven't used this one before. I'm assuming it's just the size of it. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
Just the size of the collar. Because the 280C is pretty big. Because I know Pomeranians, I've seen a shaved Pomeranian, and their necks are pretty tiny.
Yeah,
So,
when I bathe her, it's crazy because like right now with all of her hair, she looks like a big puffball. But when I put her in the bath, it's like she's so tiny.
and then is her fur like thick, or is it just long?
No, so she's not like the type of Pomeranian that's like poofy. Her hair is longer and it's more flat. Um, Peaches, I'll see if she can come over here so I can show you. But her hair is more it's like longer and like more silky.
Okay. Is
But it is
Elsie
around her neck.
okay? Does Elsie have those long probes? Like they're really long, the extra?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, hers is really big.
Okay. I'm wondering if maybe Peaches might need that. I'm not sure. I can't tell. But yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Because we can always, you know, if you end up purchasing your collar through Dogtra or off Amazon, you can
Mhm.
return it within like a month, I think, and you get your money back if you want to try another model. A client here had a Vizsla, and Vizslas are usually a good size.
Yeah.
And when she came for her first class, like hers was tiny for some reason. I was like, oh, she's tiny girl. And she's like, yeah. And then like it was funny because we had her on like the big girl collar, and like she just has this boxer, and I'm like, that's pretty big. And then she's like, yeah. And then she's like, I think I want to try the little one. And
Yeah.
like we tried it, and like the only differences are is the power outage. So like for Elsie, being her size, she needs that collar again for her size, and her
Mhm.
fur is also a buffer. So we need extra power to get through all that stuff, right?
Right.
For the little dogs, and like a Vizsla is very like they have no fur. It's like a pitty thin coat fur.
Yeah.
So you know, I was like, okay, we can try it, but don't get rid of the black edition yet in case the 280C isn't enough power. Because we have a dog here where I thought the same thing. I saw like the size of their head. I was like, they're tiny. I'll just try the 280C. And their number ended up being, because their original number on the regular collar was like 30s or 20s. And then the new number on the little collar that's meant for little dogs was like 90s or 80s. Like that was just the number that was working. She couldn't feel it until 90.
Mhm.
So I have a feeling Peaches will be fine on the IQ MIDI or 280C, whatever you'd like to go with. But yeah. Any questions about the e-collars or anything like that?
Yeah. So what, like, do you know what it feels like for
Mhm.
them, and like how it just like triggers them to listen?
Yeah. So humans can feel the e-collar at like 30s or 40s, I believe. I can feel it on 30. I can like it feels like a little tickle, right?
Mhm.
I keep going. Sometimes I want to show like the owners like the twitch. So I think like I'm not sure how high I can go, but I go pretty high to the point where you see my thumb just go like that. It'll start moving like that.
Mhm.
For dogs, dogs are all dogs are different. The models, I'm not sure what this one goes. I think it goes to 127 too. They all go to 127 levels. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 127. There
Yep.
are other models out there that maybe go up to 10. So think of the power outage of 10 and 127 equal. We just have so many more numbers to be more specific to the dog, the personality, the breed, and like the environment.
Mhm.
So for Peaches, what we would do is teach her that she is the one in control of the e-collar, of like the stimulation. She'll never know it's you pressing the button. Dogs usually never know where it's coming from. They think it's like the universe, like something's telling them to not, this feeling is coming from somewhere, but they don't know where it's coming from. Right? So for Peaches, we'd start off with the heal command. So I'm pretty sure you might be familiar with that.
Yep.
Heal is walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. So if you take 5 steps with Peaches, Peaches will take 5 steps. It might be a little more than 5 steps because she's tiny, but
Yeah.
you'll be keeping your pace. And then when you come to a stop, she's ought to automatically sit at your side, know where it's said, with a slack leash in any environment.
Mhm.
So it sounds very strict, so strict that the idea behind that heel, because owners would ask like, my dog's reactive, they bark. Why would I want to teach my dog how to walk nice if they're barking at everyone?
Mhm.
The idea is that the heel is so strict that Peaches won't care about anything else because she's worried about where's mom going, because she needs to have her right shoulder parallel with her left leg. And if this leaves, there's going to be a correction because that means she's either distracted or she's pulling you or she's kind of like looking at someone else, right? There's a reason for her not leaving your side. So she needs to be right here. So if she looks at someone else and it's either like, I see a dog, I'm going to start barking. It's like looking at a ghost. Are you going to really focus on this ghost that's doing nothing to you, or this actual real feeling that's touching you? So
Yeah.
it's whatever she's going to, she's going to, think about like, okay, it's not worth it because this is more comfortable than like just looking at a dog, right? For dogs, when they feel it, like I said, all dogs are different. Some dogs is regular number for training and teaching can be high, can be low. It's all dogs are different. Owners will say, my dog's very soft. My dog is going to be on low levels. And then we start training the dogs like medium, like high levels, or like owners will say, my dog's super tough. We're going to be super high. And then the dog's on low levels. So it's always different. We can never predict what's going to happen.
Right.
Peaches will be the one to let you know what's too high and what's too low. So we, like physical therapists, I believe when they're finding the right level of stimulation, they tell the client, let me know when it's too uncomfortable. Once the client lets them know it's too uncomfortable, then they lower it 2 levels down, and then they let the machine do its work. That's very similar to how we do dog training with e-collars. Cool. Any other questions about the e-collar?
Um, I don't think so. No. I guess my question would be, because we are interested in the would I need to purchase like another just like regular collar to walk with that the leash would be connected to? Do you
Yes.
want to veer away from the harness? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Grab not the snap ones, not the ones that click. Grab
Right.
a one that goes to the loop, because we find that the ones that snap, she probably won't do it, but usually like they break or they snap off, or like sometimes they get worn and they just break, right? You're more safer with just like the flat buckle one.
Okay.
But yeah, so what is it? There are some common questions clients will have during the consultation, which I can share with you.
Yeah.
So one question is, after training, will Peaches be wearing the e-collar all the time? Or like, is it supposed to be on in the home? Or like, what about daycare? Should I bring it to daycare? And all these other questions, right?
Mhm.
So the e-collar will be on Peaches when you need it. So on walks, for example, it'll be on because we can't predict what's going to happen on this walk. Maybe, we're walking on a busy street, and this is post training, it'll still be on. Maybe we're walking on a busy street and then like a car crash happens or something happens suddenly. And then Peaches gets freaked out and she books it. But then you get caught off guard too. And maybe like this leash slips out your hand, or maybe she probably won't pull you down, but maybe she just gets away, right?
Right.
So now when dogs are in flight mode, that's what she's in right now, is they're thinking kill or be killed. So Peaches won't make her just turn around and come back to you. You need to override the brain and get her out of that mindset and bring her back with power from the e-collar.
Mhm.
So that's why it's on. Just again, we can't predict what's going to happen on these walks. Like right now, it just turned into a thunderstorm. Like there's few dogs here with anxiety, like for the thunderstorms and everything. Like what if around the corner a thunderstorm just starts to happen? Like, oh great, now my dog's gonna be anxious, but she's gonna be pulling me. But if you have the e-collar on, you can override that anxiety and settle your dog down, and then get home safely without being dragged or anything like that. In the home, let's say, right now, I'd imagine the e-collar wouldn't be on because now it's like, she's sleeping, it's rest time.
Yeah.
Sounds like she's an angel right now, right?
I
So,
know. I'm so surprised she hasn't barked at all.
but then let's say you're gonna have guests come over, you collar her up 30 minutes prior, address whatever that is needing to be addressed, and then maybe she is settled throughout the night, then you can take it off. Or if you're like, no, I'll keep it on just in case she tries something, then that's, personal preference there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. What else? So were you thinking about like an in-person or a board and train or daycare and train?
Yeah, I guess that's my next question is like, what are the options? I think in person would be my first choice.
Mhm.
And is it 6 weeks or does it
Yeah.
depend?
It depends how how much control and obedience you're wanting. So the 6 week, think of the 6 week like I walk my dog around the block. There's no barking. It's very structured. It's a loose leash walk. You have that, heel down. And then you take her to like in the park or like a dog park, and then you need recall, like that immediate, she comes right away. You go home, have that structured and controlled walk, and then that's all.
Yeah.
The 9 week is all those things, but then you go to patios, restaurants, you need her to lay down, not move for two or 1 hour. The 12 week is all those things, but then you take, you go off leash hiking like every other weekend or every other day with her. So those are how the programs, like how we like to kind of explain it to the owners. So it just depends, because it just depends how much control you're wanting for Peaches, right? Minimum, I'd say the 6 week would be fine. I think the 6 week would be fine for you, um, for Peaches and your life. But if you're wanting more control, then you can obviously, you can have the 9 to 12, whatever you're looking for. They're 1 hour a week. So for example, Sundays, 1 p.m., 6 times if you choose the 6 week program, +1. So you have that +1 in case it rains or, life happens, in case you have to reschedule. You have an extra class reserved for you. Once you have used that +1, you need to wait to get back on the calendar.
Got it.
We operate at Oz Park. I know London is working with Jesse, but I think they're meeting at Palmer, right?
I don't know which park they go to.
Okay. I
'Cause
thought,
we're close to like John Quill.
John Quill.
I don't know if you know where that is. It's like, what street is that? It's on Wrightwood in
Uh,
Lincoln Park. Um, but yeah, we'd probably go to Oz Park because that's pretty close too.
okay, cool.
And it's
Yeah,
nice.
so
There's nice dogs there, so it's good practice.
yeah. So we meet all our clients at Oz Park actually just because of those reasons.
Mhm.
Everything is there. So usually if you can train your dog at Oz Park, you can probably train your dog or you can, work your dog anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, so that, yeah, that's in person. Pros and cons. Pros, you're doing everything yourself. You're learning how to troubleshoot the e-collar. You're learning how to address her reactivity, what to do in sticky situations. Maybe, we've had incidents where like a little kid is running up to an owner and their dog does not like kids, like what to do in that situation, or what to do when there's like a marathon of bikes and your dog hates bikes, like what to do. So those are some pros there. Some cons, it just takes a little longer than like, versus the board and train daycare and training where we teach all the commands in 2 days for the dogs. Um, but yeah, any questions about the in-person?
I don't think so.
Cool.
I'm curious about the board and train.
Yeah, board and train is 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, where you're leaving your dog here with us overnight. For you, it'd most likely be like around like the 2 week program. So think of the 4 week program equal to the 12 week program. So same
Okay,
thing. It's
got
just
it.
we can just squeeze it all together. So here, let's say you do the 2 week program, you get 2 1 hour long videos of, it will most likely be me, of teaching Peaches all the commands, and like they're like the introductory sessions. So you're seeing how she's taken to the e-collar, right off the bat, how we work through her through certain things. Maybe she gets a little flighty or anxious. How do we work through that? And I explain what the commands are, how they work, how we're going to teach her. You see how we teach her, and then how to practice at home. She will learn heel, stay, sit, down, place, which is like go to your bed, don't move, and then the recall. Through for the board and train, and she's getting trained constantly all day with all of our handlers. So I teach the foundation. So I teach like the first lessons. Once I've gotten the foundation down, she understands what the commands are, then the other trainers here will reinforce those and practice and practice and practice and keep, repeating these certain things with her. So she's getting, comfortable with all the commands, she's understanding what they actually mean. The 2 week program, or like all the programs for board and train come with follow-up lessons. So the 2 week, I believe, comes with 4 hours of follow-up. And those 4 hours, we still meet at Us Park. And what we're doing is we're transferring the commands to you. So right before we do the follow-ups, all the commands and the training is tied to us, Canine Perspective here. So that's what the follow-up is for. So some owners will ask, well, if I do the board and train, like, what if the dog doesn't listen to me? Like, what if the dog is like, only when Enrique or Jesse is here, they listen to when the trainer's here, right? That doesn't happen with e-collar training, because let's say Peach's number is 30. When I press the button, the e-collar on 30 for Peaches, and you press the button on 30, it's still 30. Like, there's no like, you know, he's stronger than me or she's more stricter than him. And, the Peaches know she can get away with, when he handles her, or like when the sisters are, stuff like that. There's none of that, because 30 is 30. So that's like another wonder and like a great thing about e-collar. It's very transferable. So like, when we work with partners, right, or couples, partner number one goes first, like for in-person. Partner number one goes first, they do all the hard work. Partner number two goes, and they're like, oh, that was easy. And then partner number one, like, what the heck? Like, I did all the hard work, right? So it's the same thing with that as well. So that's board and train, pros and cons. Pros, we get it done faster. Cons, the training is tied to us at first. And then daycare and train, it's very similar. You just don't leave Peaches overnight with us. It's just you drop her off, like a regular day of daycare. We're just training her now, but she still gets to enjoy all the daycare activities. And same thing with the board and train. She still gets to play with dogs, and we teach dogs here how to walk on a treadmill, so she'll learn how to walk on a treadmill. We take the dogs to like on training walks like Home Depot, right? So and get you set up for like that, you know, because obviously, you know, if we can train a dog here easy, right? But then the training isn't really useful if it's not functioning outside of the facility, right? Because obviously they're gonna be good here, but what about Home Depot? What about these training walks we do? What about, you know, like all these other different stores? Like because it's nice, we have a Home Depot right around the corner and a PetSmart. So we just go like Home Depot really quick, and then we'll come to like PetSmart, walk around there, then we'll go back to the facility. So it's really nice. So yeah, any questions about the board and train or the daycare and train program?
Yeah. So I've got my notes up right here. Um, for the board and train, you said the 2 week would probably be sufficient for Peaches. Is that like the full 2 weeks she's there with you and I don't see her for 2 weeks?
Yes.
Oh,
So I know.
that's wild.
Yeah, I know. It's but you're more than welcome to like come and like take her for a walk. You know,
Yeah.
we have a puppy here that's here for 4 weeks. So they've been stopping by. They take, you know, her for a walk really quick, you know, have some, you know, they play ball with her, and, you know, they still, you know, they come out and hang out with her, and then, you know, they'll leave and everything. So you're more than welcome to like, you know, stop by, say hi to Peaches. Or you can also, because you have follow-up lessons, right? You can have the follow-up lesson after her first week, right? We can meet at Oz Park, so you're, you know, you're kind of caught up with everything for her first week, and then the second week, maybe she gets picked up. We have another follow-up lesson, and then you already have some knowledge on pump pickup, so you can take that home with you, and then you can practice and like, hey, Enrique, like, you know, I'm struggling with this command. Like, then we have another follow-up, and we can keep it, keep up with the training. But yes, 2 weeks staying here with us, boarding. Yeah.
With that, do you have any experience with like rescue dogs? Like the only thing that goes through my mind, and like this is kind of something too that we're learning with daycare, but I worry that, you know, if she like I take her somewhere new, that she might think that like I'm leaving her and I'm never going to come back. And I don't know if like that's like one of those things that you mentioned in the beginning where it's like, like once that territory is gone, it's like fun playtime. Like I can focus, I can play. And then it's just like a big old surprise when mom comes back. Like I just, you know, I just worry that she would feel like I just left her.
Yeah.
You know? Is that normal for like, do you have any experience with rescue dogs specifically that have gone through those trainings?
Yeah. We do, and we find that, at least from what I've seen, the dogs who have been rescued from like shelters or just like anything else, like they tend to adapt more because they're used to it. They're used to like moving around, and like, okay, we're just at a new place. It's whatever, you know. But the ones who like were, you know, bought from breeders and like we're always with the mom 24/7, right? Then that's like when I see them struggle a little bit more. But like I said, all dogs are different, right? So genetics play a big part of it. So Peaches doesn't think about the past. So dogs only live in like the moment. They're very reactive. So whatever's happening in that moment, that's what's going on. They don't think, well, man, like mom did a lot of training that last week, so I'm gonna be a good girl today, right? They don't think like that, right? It's just whatever's
Yeah.
happening now is happening.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's very common there, you know, my dog was abused at the previous shelter, so that's why she's like this. Yeah and no, because, you know, we've heard stories where like a dog was like had gunshot wounds or got shot a lot, but then they're just still happy-go-lucky. Like it's like they never remember that, right?
Mhm.
So genetics has a big part to play with it. Like, you know, how well does a dog recover from like a moment of uncomfortable, or like how
Right.
are they, like, you know, like a dog can not have a bad experience ever in their life and they're just anxious. That's just who they are, right? So um for her staying here, yeah, she might be stressed her first few nights, which is normal. Some dogs don't eat the first night or two, but they're still drinking water, they still potty, they do all these things.
Mhm.
Obviously, if there are certain behaviors saying like where she's just not eating for like a few days and not drinking water, then we'll have to like contact you like, hey, like she's,
Yeah.
this could be a serious thing if this continues.
Yeah.
We've only had that happen once where the dog just fasted. Then we were like, okay, this has been too long. And then she had to take the dog. He took a break and he came back and he was eating normal again. And like, he was like excited to see us and everything, which is kind of funny. But then he finished his program and he did really well. So it's only happened like once. I think another time, I can't remember. I think it was like this dog wasn't potting at all.
Mm.
And when the dog finally had a potty, it was like a big mess. And then we're like, okay, good. He like, it was before I was here, I think. It was like good that he pottied, but then he went on a strike again. So I was like, well, we can't make your dog go potty, right? So like it's very rare, and we've had a lot of boarding trains here, and it's normal to see them being stressed in a new environment. But like
Mhm.
that, if she did fine with her daycare over there, and like nothing really out of the ordinary, then I that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Um, no, I think that's it. All the questions I have. This
Cool.
has been so helpful. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course.
Thank you for your
Um,
time.
cool. Of course.
I
After
guess
this,
would be like what are the next steps?
yeah, yeah. So after this consultation, I'll send you a follow-up email with were you thinking about in person, or if you don't know yet, you don't need to give me an answer. But either
Yeah.
way, I'll still send you like the programs we talked about, the
Mm-hmm.
prices, the e-collar I recommend for Peaches,
Mm-hmm.
a link to Amazon if you want to purchase it yourself, or you can purchase it through us. It's the same price and all. And then a form that needs to be signed, just like an agreement form. Once
Mm-hmm.
that form is signed, then we can begin billing and booking.
Okay.
What else do I send? I think that's all I send. Cool. And any other questions?
Yeah. No, I think the 6 week in person is like what I'm leaning towards right now. But once I have all of the information and everything else,
Mhm.
I'll get a better perspective and picture of things. But yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. Me too.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Yeah, if any questions come up or if anything pops up, feel free to email me. It's the same email, Enrique at canaperspective.com.
Okay.
But other than that, the follow-up email should be sent out tomorrow, sometime tomorrow, if not the following day. Trying to think if there's anything else I missed. Other than that, I think that's all.
Okay. Awesome. Enrique, thank you so much. This has been amazing. I've learned a lot of things, and I think Peaches is gonna, both of us are gonna learn a lot from this. So
Course. Cool.
excited.
Thank you. It's good to hear. Alrighty,
Yeah,
we'll keep in touch.
sounds good. See you
Have a
later.
good night. Bye.
Bye bye.